Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 1. I'm going to start my review talking about what we see every season where something crazy happens in the beginning that's in the future. Then I'll break down all the arrivals, and then I'm going to break down my review into everybody's different character arc. So right off the bat, this season has my favorite location. It's just so cool seeing all the different animals. It looks really cool. That's what I was so impressed by, were the visuals in this episode and the feel of it. I love it opens with the monkeys, literally the first thing we see. And then right away, I'm thinking of season 1 of White Lotus episode 3, mysterious monkeys. And Mike White loves to write his characters relating to whether it's spirits, statues, or really animals a lot. And I think when we're seeing all these monkeys and different shots of them, you got to always think about the animals we're seeing here, which are the people that are like these monkeys and behaving in different ways. And definitely when they write lines about monkeys, just pay special attention to that. And there's one here even where they tell Laurie that be careful feeding the monkeys. They can become aggressive. And I think that's just a line about the people we're going to see. But we actually meet in this future timeline Zion, who is Belinda's son, who is coming back for this season, which is great. But he's stressed out about something besides finals, and it's a reason Belinda suggests him to go there. So we don't know what that big reason is, but they did make a small point of that, so that's going to be important. But when he's trying to meditate, he hears gunshots, and I love the cut of the monkey turning his neck, hearing the gunshots, while Zion is also turning his neck, and he prays to the statue slash also Jesus to protect him and his mom. Scary situation. And then we see that a body floats to him that we don't see who it actually is. So it stays in the theme of White Lotus every season, starting with that. So you can kind of start to get your mind going on what exactly happened here and any clues we'll get in further episodes. So now we go to 1 week earlier, and this is really where the show starts, and we see our new crew on the boat. And of course, Walton Goggins and Jason Isaac's characters of Rick and Tim already are clashing heads over Rick smoking on the boat. And I'm so excited about this cast. I'm a huge Walton Goggins fan, even before Fallout, where he's finally getting his flowers. I love him in Righteous Gemstones and Vice Principals. Other HBO shows you gotta check out. He's so funny. And we get our classic waving in of the new arrivals through the eyes of Mook, who is actually played by a K-pop star, Lisa, from Thailand. This is her acting debut. And we also meet Sirtala, who is the hotel owner, who really wants to get pampered before the arrivals, but I think this is because she knows Michelle Monaghan's character, who is a famous actress, Jaclyn, is coming to see them, and she used to also be an actress, we'll learn later on. But she's also the visionary behind the White Lotus Wellness Program. So this is going to be the connection to Belinda, and she's sent out there, not on vacation, but it obviously is like a vacation, but she gets to be there for 3 months, we're told, and she's learning all about the wellness program there and bring their practices to the White Lotus Resort in Maui. Now we also meet the Ratliff family at the arrivals, and I love Parker Posey playing Victoria here. She's probably my favorite character so far. I love her line saying we flew over the North Pole. And we see Piper, the daughter, is doing a senior thesis on Buddhism and wants to interview a monk there. Her story is one of the first ones that kind of started grabbing my attention. Now we also see Michelle Monaghan, Leslie Bibb, and Carrie Coon. They're the 3 best friends that anyone could ever have. And Michelle's Jaclyn being this famous actress, like I had mentioned before. They're also introduced to Valentine, their health mentor, who's like this hunk from Russia. But that's all we saw of him so far, but he's going to be important in their story for sure. And now that we saw everyone's arrivals, let's jump into every storyline for these different factions. And I'm going to start with everything that goes on with the Ratliffs. Now, there's always something weird going on with the families that end up in the White Lotus. This is extra weird. So the Ratliffs check in. Saxon, who's the oldest brother played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, wants to share his room with his little brother, Lockie, right away, which is already strange enough. But he's also saying it's weird that a brother and sister would share a room. He doesn't want them doing that. So the aggression to have to share a room with a sibling is already just like a red flag. They also are learned there's no Wi-Fi in the villas, so this is really bad news to Saxon and his father Tim, because they work together and they're always on their phones. He also finds a fruit that we learn the seeds are toxic. That's not just a throwaway line, so that fruit's going to be important later on some way, somehow. And the worker brings up a biometric test they're going to have to take tomorrow. And Victoria goes, I don't want to take a test. Is it complicated? We're jet lagged. Again, just some great lines with Victoria. And you see Tim shoos the worker away, basically. And Tim has like a very accurate portrayal of a rich father with his family that works in corporate on his vacation, and that he has a guard there too, and there's something a little scary about him. Now, I also love this running thing going on where Victoria is going to take a nap, but Tim's like, please don't, you're going to be up all night, and you see she'll fall asleep later on in the room, and Tim's like, wake up, and you love it gets that payoff at the end, but she's like, oh, I got second wind at night, and then she has to tell him, don't worry, that she took a pill for what you would take for insomnia to help you sleep. And you wonder if she has insomnia, and that's why she is so jet lagged and really affected by a trip like that, and that she has trouble sleeping in general. Now, what we'll see is Saxon wants his little brother Lockie at the pool with him, but Piper wants him with him at the temple. He goes with Piper. There's going to be a couple situations where he's put in the middle of decisions by his family. Not only this, but at dinner, it's between his father and his mom. One wants him to go to Duke, one wants him to go to North Carolina, and then it happens again with his siblings where his older brother wants him to live the life of going for a woman, power, money, where his sister is another option where it's a life of spirituality and Buddhism and not all these wants, but he's always put in the middle. Now, we're also seeing developed is the Wall Street Journal calling Tim. So this is the mystery starting to be dropped into the show, and we're wondering what is going on with this fund he set it up with a guy named Kenny called Shokel. So that's going to be something bad he did that now he's going to get caught for by the Wall Street Journal, and they're making the story this week. That is why when he's in bed with his wife later on, and she's saying he's got the perfect life and that everyone says he's a good man, he has a little guilty face on because there's an earthquake that's about to hit that lifestyle. Now with Saxon, this guy is super horny, like I'm saying, about him giving his brother this option of living this life of all these wants with really valuing sex the most. He checks out Chelsea at the pool, who is Rick's much younger girlfriend. That's the character of Walton Goggins, and she has zero interest in him. Then he tries to hit on the three best friends and calls them cougars. They have no interest either. And he's like, don't worry, Locke, it's a numbers game. You got to play the numbers. So what we've seen of him so far is he has no game, and he's trying to be a mentor for his brother in this department. I also think by him being into the three best friends and calling them cougars to Locke, that when he puts the porn on later and he's suggesting different types of porn, that if you could look really quickly at that picture, I'm sure he's probably watching cougar porn. Now, on Piper's side of the story, we learn at the dinner that she didn't set up the interview with the monk yet, and this is where we're seeing that kind of scary side of her father, Tim, where he's tough on her about, like, how did you not schedule something yet? Then he's tough on Locke about his posture and where he's going to go to school. And it's the call that gets him away from the table, which he's not supposed to have his phone out, doesn't care, he still does, and then goes away. And we see he's the one who's actually mean to Rick after Rick just saying hi to him and tells his wife later on that Rick was the mean one. Now, I love the moment here where they have Piper reading about Buddhism, and the quote is, "Identity is a prison. No one is spared this prison. Rich man, poor man, success or failure. We build the prison, lock ourselves inside, then throw away the key." So no matter what situation you are in life, we all are in a prison of our own identity. So that's going to be a big theme in this show. And it was great they cut from this to Saxon, really with the complete opposite of this kind of wisdom and spirituality, talking about getting laid in life basically being the most important thing. We've all met people like this. And he says about his sister, you shouldn't humor her BS. She has issues she needs to deal with. And then he says she's pretty hot, but I don't think she has ever been laid before. It's a weird thing, again, him saying that she's pretty hot as well, being his sister. There's just something weird going on right now at Saxon and that. And it's a weird moment when he goes to jerk off in the bathroom and how he's just walking naked from his brother with the porn on and about to close the door, and his brother's like awkwardly looking in. Just a weird moment all around. So we'll see what goes on with that. So I like a lot of the stuff they're setting up with the Ratliffs. I think these storylines are going to be very fascinating. There's a lot of characters here, but I also do really like the story they're starting to tell with Piper because it feels the most original compared to other seasons so far about spirituality here and her exploring Buddhism, but coming from this Christian family that has very different values than that. Now let's go to everything with Rick and Chelsea. What I'm reading with this is that Chelsea knows who this guy is that she's dating, but doesn't know what he's doing. So all her things she's saying to other people about him definitely are on point. Like she's saying, once he gets an idea in his head, you can't argue with him. So we're learning about him through her because right now he's just so mysterious. We do know he's looking for the owner of the hotel's husband, Jim. We don't know why, and he'll even look at photos of him later. And then at one point, Chelsea says to Rick, you should get a facial. The lady in the airport thought you were my dad, so that's going to be important exploring this relationship of such an age gap. But she's not in denial about it. Like, again, she's pointing out all these things. She knows what she's in with here. And like us not knowing, and she not knowing why Rick came to Thailand, he isn't allowed in Australia, so I don't know what he did in Australia, but he's really sketchy. And at dinner, she'll call Rick out for being a victim of his own decisions, like him complaining about the food that he picked the restaurant for. And she says, I'm going to help you get your joy back even if it kills me. So you're seeing that she's enjoying all the things that he's giving her, but you're like, how does she even, what is she getting out of this? What does she like about this guy? And it seems like she's got a little bit of a savior complex with him. Now, she'll meet at the bar a model, and she has a very similar situation as a model where they're saying their boyfriends are hiding from them. But this model reveals to us she's been there for a year and she's been dating Tanya's ex-husband, Greg. So it's the big surprise. This is the same Greg who tried getting Tanya killed, and then Tanya died anyway. And this model says to Chelsea, you will notice a lot of bald white guys in Thailand. The locals call them LBHs, losers back home. So what does this mean? This means I need to get to Thailand. So that's a big reveal that Greg is in this season. I don't know how big of a part he is. I hope it's not too big though, because I feel like Tanya's story and everything connected to her wrapped really well. I don't know if I need more of Greg, but we'll see how it kind of ties into the season overall. I just hope it's not too much. Belinda's story, I feel like, can branch out, not relying on Tanya, which I like, where I feel like his will still kind of bring it too much towards Tanya. So it's interesting, the Chelsea and Rick stuff, and I'm excited to see Walton Goggins in the season, but I do feel like I wish we got a little more meat on the bone with their story, and that's my biggest problem with the premiere, and really a lot of the White Lotus premieres. I feel like the first 2 episodes of every season are my least favorite so far with Mike White and how he writes them. I just wish he gives us a little bit more to chew on, and especially here, because it wasn't as funny either as the first 2 episodes to me of the prior seasons, and still continuing that trend of not really giving us much yet. He's setting up all the characters, which you got to do. I understand that, but I wanted a little more, especially about what's going on here with Rick. Now let's go to the 3 best friends that anyone ever could have. And we learn Jaclyn is this famous actress. She paid for the trip. And you'll see this bond that Kate and Jaclyn have the whole time. It's like Kate is really this direct clone of Jaclyn. She's gushing over everything. They're gushing over their looks for their age. And the age is going to be a big part too, because Laurie is insecure about that part about getting older. That's why when they were first greeted, she made a joke about the older part. And that would be something that's a soft spot for her. And you see how she feels already the odd one out when they're talking about how they look good for their age. And you're seeing as you're watching, it's a great example of what you learn in sociology, that the 3 people hanging out is the worst number of people to hang out together, because this is destined to happen, that you'll have a 2 versus 1 situation constantly going on. And even at dinner, they bring up that they were in a play together where they all played the same person. And you even see Kate says, of course, Jaclyn was the face. And in their story, we also learned that Sertala was an actress like Jaclyn. Her husband is an American, and she has autoimmune disease. That's why she went into the health and wellness and developed this program for the White Lotus. But her husband being American, just a little more clues to what's going on there with Rick and why he needs to see him. So we'll see about that. Now, when Laurie brings up how it must be weird having people constantly kissing your ass to Jaclyn, Kate has to relate to that and brings up something, because she's always relating to Jaclyn and bonding and wanting to be like Jaclyn. And they even talk in the same beats. And that's why you see when Laurie leaves for the night, she goes upstairs and does this weird crying moan when she sees them bonding still and together, feeling like she's not having that connection and is jealous of it and feeling like the odd one out. I also want to mention, Kate says to Laurie at one point, your daughter seems like she's turning into a really cool girl. I don't know why, but I take that as maybe Portia from season 2, Tanya's assistant, played by Haley Lou Richardson, is Laurie's daughter. It's a stretch, but same hair vibes, same vibes in general, that realness vibe to them both. That would be really cool. I've talked about My Sister, the show, a bunch, and we both agree that Portia is definitely a character they can bring back. I think would be interesting to continue her story, so maybe that's a hint at a character that could come back for next season. But I like what they're doing with Laurie. Laurie's a very interesting character. I'd put her up at Victoria. I want to see more of them. I know Mike White mentioned before this season there's going to be a character that's going to be just as popular as Tanya, Jennifer Coolidge's character. So my prediction is it's one of those 2. Now, with Belinda, she's walking on the bridge, and it's this like moment of her taking the resort. She's like, it's beautiful. It's truly beautiful. And then she goes, oh my God, what was that? And it's this monitor lizard, they say, appearing. I love they did this humor with Belinda, because if I was at a resort like this, I would be doing the exact same thing. I'm freaked out by just wild animals near me that I don't know what's going to be near me. So Even later, she freaks out about, she thinks the snake's in the tree above her. That would definitely be me. Now you'll see she goes to the shrine and she's told the Thai people believe that spirits are everywhere, so we give them offerings for good luck and protection. She left an offering there of her necklace she got. So I think this is a sign that she's going to be okay, and that it was a misdirect in the beginning, that it might be her who gets killed. I think she will be protected. Now, Belinda's also presently surprised to see a black couple at the resort that's not staff. So I feel like they will develop as some sort of characters with her, which will be important. And we see she's on the phone with her son for a bit, but we don't get a lot of information there yet. And even with Belinda, I would have liked just a little more meat on the bone, just a little more information of what's going on. Again, it felt like it was held back a little too much because we don't know the other reason why the son is going there besides him being stressed for finals. Now, the last pairing I want to talk about is Mook and Guy Talk. So they're co-workers together, and you see that Guy Talk is jealous of Mook when she's talking to the security guards for the owners. She likes the idea of their job too, where they get to travel and see the world, but you see Guy Talk values his job and where he is and saving someone's life who was drowning. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a theme there too, about that envy of someone else having this more glamorous lifestyle, where he's just happy in what he's doing and how he's helping people day to day as a security guard, and that jealousy he has of her, and obviously clearly having some feelings for Mook. So we didn't get much either, but I understand that that's just starting up as kind of like a background story, and I think they'll get more important as the show goes on, especially usually with the locals. He kind of slowly builds them up and then they get really interesting. So I think he'll do that again here. So overall, I'm giving this episode an 8. I think it was solid writing. What I love about Mike White is he has the most timely, most realistic writing you're going to get on TV, period, of people. And I think it's why a hit show like White Lotus is such a big hit, is because people can relate to these characters. They feel so accurate. It's really scary. But in one of Mike White's flaws, I think, which are very few, I think in his intro episodes, he doesn't give us enough sometimes, and it starts cooking usually episode 3, episode 4. So it's kind of what I expected, and I think that's the same case here. But I did want a little more funny moments here. I did think it lacked a bit in that department as well. But I'm giving it an 8 because it's still solid. I'm still interested. I'm excited for what's to come and excited to see what really happens. But at the end of the day, you watch this episode, we don't know much yet. So we'll see how it branches out. It's hard to judge at this moment. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what characters you got interested in right away, who your favorites are, any theories you have about what happened in the beginning, where you think this might go. Please let me know down below, and please hit that sub button so you don't miss one of my reviews of White Lotus. I'm also doing Severance at the moment, so you're not going to miss that, and I'll see you next time.